Welcome to Extended Disc and today's webinar. We want to provide some background for those of you who may not have met us yet. Extended Disc is an international assessment company with operations in almost 50 countries and 250 team members. Extended Disc offers internationally validated assessments that can be tailored to clients' unique needs and preferences. If you'd like to learn more, contact us on our website or follow us along any of our social media outlets. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and all registrants will receive a link to the recording, and it will also be posted on our YouTube channel. Use the Q&A section to ask us any questions you may have. If we are unable to answer them during our live session, we'll reach out to all registrants with the response. Thanks for joining us, and now here's the host of today's webinar.
Webinar, I love it. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Wilma is representing in the green. So today's webinar is actually a webinar that we've targeted for trainers and coaches, anyone who does, DISC sessions, DISC training. It's a long title, bear with me. It's Will Your Participants Use DISC? Ways to Ensure DISC Application Post-Session. So reinforcement, and basically is the word of the day. My name is Christina Bowser. I'm the training director here at Extended DISC, and joining me today is my wonderful senior trainer, Wilma Stevens. Hi, Wilma.
Hey, Christina. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Love this holiday. I feel lucky today.
Why is that?
Just lucky to be here. I'm counting on the luck of the Irish. And so it just seems to be like a four-clover shamrock kind of moment.
Wow, when you said that, for some reason, it made me think of the green McDonald's Shamrock Shakes. just blasted into my eye. Maybe it's the color of your green, that was it. For those of you who are here, especially if you are DISC trainers like in the place of training, we would love to hear your tips and feedback as well. We're all learning from each other. So, use the chat room, use the Q&A section. We'd love to interact with you. 30 minutes, let's go. So when I say, one of the things I think about when we design our DISC curriculum is not just designing the DISC workshop itself. It's not just they come to it, it's an experience, and then, we say, go out there and do your thing. So one of the best questions I ask myself is, as I'm doing the DISC workshop and designing it, how transferable is that learning? How connected do I make the cases, the examples, everything that I do? How transferable and how connected is it to their own job, to their daily lives, to their own roles? So comprehensive, that's the word I'm trying to get at. What do you think, Wilma?
One of the things that I think about is that when we're doing our training, for me, no action, no traction, right? I want to think about all of my training. How do I move that to actionable moments for my participants, right? Not only not only after the training, but engaging them in a fashion that they have to start application early on, right? When you think about your training, we often think about the learning styles of our participants, right? So one of the things right off the bat is you can't judge a book by its cover, just like you cannot judge your participants' learning style. So when you said comprehensive, that's a great word. Think about that comprehensive approach that fits with the environment, the audience, the group that you're working with. That's the first thing I think of. How can we move to action and what works?
One of the things that I say, not just to you as DISC trainers, but to participants that are coming to learn more about their results and about their own development, right? So results and the session itself are really just your starting point. You know, the report is not where we want people to read it and then file it away. We want them to actually look at it as a dynamic tool, that something that speaks to who they truly are, their most comfortable behavioral style. And the environment might change around you. Your bosses might change, you know, things, your roles and responsibilities might change, but that report still speaks to who you are. So that's what I mean by always go back and revisit your report. The end goal. So when we're thinking about building these comprehensive trainings, the end goal is not to make you DISC aware. The end goal is for you to be more successful in your daily interactions, knowing how you tend to show up in different situations and making better decisions to meet the challenges and that situation as well. So I just want to talk, have Wilma talk about some tips that we were kind of brainstorming. You know, these aren't the end all of tips, but these are just some of the things that came to mind to help us build those comprehensive learning experiences. So Wilma already started it, the Know Your Clients.
Well, I'd even go further about the Know Your Clients. I would start with a comment that you made on that last slide. Remember, this assessment really speaks to your self-awareness. And when you look at self-awareness, sometimes we're really self-aware, and then other times, you know, it's a dip. Like, it's kind of can be a little bit like this, but we hope we're moving up the scale. So when we take our assessment as a working document, that we can continue to go back, because remember, it reflects your hardwired behavior. You're learning as you go, right? So it also talks about things that you're learning. So when we talk about know your audience, right? They're going to have a level of self-awareness, and you are going to give them a key to a door to open up so much more. So when I talk about know your clients, let's talk about the environment that you're working in. Maybe it's the company that you're an employee in and you're the facilitator. Well, when we talk about reinforcing this, we can speak to the culture of that company, right? So that what you say resonates with your audience. Knowing your clients as well. I think that your job as a facilitator is to push them a little bit, right? Push them outside their comfort zone a little bit. I love the first word, homework. I'm a mother of 4. Homework is great. But when you say in a class, oh, guess what? We're doing homework. You know that you're going to get a mixed response, right? Some of my kids loved homework, couldn't wait to get it done. Some, it's like a 4-letter swear word. I would say whatever homework you do, if we couch it in terms of what's in it for them, you're going to get better uptake, right? You know, we talked about self-awareness. Here's a homework that gives you real application in your current day that ultimately is going to get you more of what you want. Identifying the people that you work with, figuring out their style, and then going to where they stand. That's a perfect homework assignment.
Right. And with homework, you know, I probably don't even say homework in a DISC session. You know, amongst us as peers, we might use the word homework. What I like to use is a behavioral action plan. It's something that has action built into it. And that kind of leads me to starting reinforcement in the session. So it's not about, you know, here's the homework, now go leave the session and start doing it. It's about, let's get them to start making these behavioral adjustments, maybe not physically make them, but consciously be aware of what types of adjustments I would want to make when I interact with a specific colleague, or when I'm in a stressful situation, or how I lead. Get them to start writing it down. Whether they go back and revisit it, the fact that they wrote it down, they're more consciously aware of. And what's great about some of the reinforcement action plans that are already built into their report, we have one called your personal action plan. And it really is a very simplified plan that helps you think of adjustments you would make in terms of what adjustments would you start making, what adjustments would you stop doing that may have hindered your performance, and what behavioral adjustments should you continue doing because they've been very effective for you. So the more that we are able to kind of get them to commit in the session, the more likely they're going to start applying it when they leave.
Yeah, and that action plan, it's the back page. It's always the back page. That really speaks to your overall start, stop, continue. But you can take it with Exhibit A and say, okay, that's for you. Now think about a person that you interact, a valuable relationship, a person you interact with, and start there. I think another thing when we're doing this reinforcement in the session, when we're learning and we make it enjoyable, right, where they see what's in it for them, you get better uptake. So for instance, when you're in the section of identifying styles, let's get everybody to start identifying styles. The practice right there. Maybe you have pictures of famous people, cars, whatever it is. And maybe you have actual people that they work with. So we can start dissecting Exhibit A and working through that reinforcement. Who is in front of me is terrific because it's like anything. The more you practice, typically the better you get at it. So that reinforcement in the session, all the way through it, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, there's ways to get it that you're not just giving information to your audience, that you get them sending cues back to you. Is that what you would experience as well, Christina?
Yeah, one of my favorite homeworks or just activities that you start in the class is who am I? How do I relate? And one of the things that's very powerful, you heard Wilma talk about the 4 steps, right? So the 4 steps are basically, what is DISC, understanding myself, identifying style of other person, and what adjustments would I make? And what's powerful about that homework is it takes you through those 4 steps. So when I ask people to think about people they know, and I always say, I'm not outing anybody. I just want you to think of 4 people that you would correlate to a D style, an I style, S style, and C style. Now, considering that style, which one tends to challenge you? Which one tends to be easiest for you to interact with? And now, taking it to the step 4, what would you do differently, especially for that one that tends to challenge you more? And again, it's helping them build that action plan. And also going back into the report. You want to make it action oriented, have them go back through their own report. Use the tips in the report section about what adjustments you could make based on a style. Ask them to think about someone they know in their real world that they would want to improve their interactions with. So anything that you can tie in real people, real situations into the learning process, the more likely they're going to use it when they leave your session.
Another way to add on to that, Christina, that when we do that is to have if you don't have a group like 50 people, so you have a nice size 12. So say somebody identified a C style that was their most challenging. Let's collectively crowdsource information, right? Okay, everybody, let's talk about C styles. What do they like? What are adjustments you could do? And start crowdsourcing information. Something will stick, right? They'll be out in the workforce working with a C, and all of a sudden, you know what? I'm going to send them an email of everything we just discussed. Ping. And the other thing, when we're talking about this, when people start brainstorming, they may not get everything right. This is new. We still encourage them, right? And the connector always is and. So say they say, oh, it's a C style and I'm going to get right in their office and just say, this is what I need done. And then you're going to write them a nice detailed email with it formatted properly, with a very logical approach. Oh yes, I'll do that too, right? So we don't want to make our participants wrong to make ourselves right. So the beautiful connector always is and I think that helps everybody. That brainstorming also, people will start to speak, and your engagement has just increased.
And
so I like technology.
Quick tip on technology that I've learned from Wilma is we all have our smartphones, right? It's always near us. So, have your participants put in a daily reminder, an alert that asks them whatever questions they choose to ask themselves, like, did I make an effective adjustment today? Or could I have adjusted more effectively? What could I have done differently that I will try tomorrow? So whatever you want to prompt yourself, again, it's just a very simple, you look at your phone, a daily alert, and what we're trying to do is trying to get it to become a habit. Maybe you don't need that alert after a while. It just automatically comes to you. But that, use technology. If you have a group, they're very chatty or they like to interact, start a group chat where they can go in and support each other and bounce ideas and talk about this more. Anything that, connects people or reminds people, I'm all for it. So
another technology thing that I think is really a great starting point. Lots of people learn by having a reminder of a picture. So right off the bat at the beginning, I want to say, hey, don't be using your phone to check your Facebook or social media. That being said, if there's something on the screen or if there's something that we're wanting to talk about and you want to take a picture, jump right in. If this will help you remember the content, I'm all for it. So, if people go, oh, stop on that slide, I want to take a picture, encourage it, right? It's a little reminder that they have in that phone that they carry with them everywhere. So even set that out to encourage them. Take a picture or a screenshot if it's virtual. Absolutely, I encourage you to do that, because we want them, whatever works for them in terms of uptake, we're all for. And a lot of people have a lot of tech savvy, like more tech savvy than myself. I've had groups where someone says, yeah, I'm on it, and I'll share our, our stuff that we've put up on the flip chart papers or anything like that to remind them. Another thing that I think that ways that you can bring your training to life is if your company allows this, use the physical space of your office, or if you're only like on Zoom or on Teams, utilize that. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If you do a team report and this is an intact team, send everybody the name map, right? Don't make them guess. Make it really obvious. Of course, if that is a policy of how you share the data or how you share information, if that goes along with your data sharing policy, yes. Other things that clients sometimes do is they identify in their sign off, like, maybe I'm a red, yellow, green, or I'm a blue, green, or I'm like the letters right there. Just any way that you can send information that makes it more obvious, get after that.
Another good way, and it kind of ties into the next tip, which is utilizing managers. One of the questions we often get asked is, how do I build DISC into my organization? Not just individually, but how do I get, everyone to be, I'm investing, making DISC assessments available to everyone. I want all my employees to do it. Now what? One of the technologies that we found that helps a lot of people is to create, especially for those who have CRMs, customer management type software. Put the DISC style as a field box into it. It has your employees practicing identifying styles, and it also can help give them more information when they're reconnecting with employees or sharing the information with other colleagues. And it kind of falls into the next topic, which is utilize managers. When we talk about building DISC into an organization, the most successful organizations we have found that have actually been able to do that are the ones that do it from top down. So when your managers start using the language of DISC, like, oh, I see you just finished with, the employee, with the client. What style do you think he was? Or what style do you think that customer is? So the more that we can value DISC as a manager, as a leader, then the more likely our employees will use it as well.
Yeah, just getting it into the vernacular, right? In a language, in a class, examples like this, we're doing brainstorming. Hey, let's all channel our inner I, or let's, we need to make a decision now. Let's get on our, whatever the moment needs. Start to, in your class, model language that is usable in your actual work environment. Without being careful that we're not pigeonholing, labeling, making value judgments, right? That's the one thing that we have all DISC styles in us, and we want to make sure that we relate that you have all of that, no excuses. We all can move to all of these quadrants if we're willing to focus and use that energy.
And one of the things that I like to say is you already, as DISC trainers, have a jump start, because one of the things about DISC is it, in essence, doesn't teach you anything that you don't already know or that your clients don't already know. They know how they tend to show up. They oftentimes are aware of how others show up. And maybe sometimes they'll slow down, or they'll listen more than speak. But we tend to get in trouble when we don't do it consistently. And that's the power of DISC. It's not teaching your participants anything they don't really know. It's just reminding them that they need to make these types of adjustments consistently. So what's great about DISC is, they've already got a jump start, and any behavioral action plan that you help them develop, and also the use of the report, you don't have to keep going back and saying, here's a new exercise, here's here's a new report for you. You don't have to do that. Because it's about who they truly are, how they prefer to go about the day, how they prefer to operate. We call it, the tip here is repeat, revisit, and reflect. So, maybe your situation changes at work. You've got a promotion, so congratulations. Go back and look at your report. Go back and look at your action plan. What may have motivated you when you first looked at your results? Your motivations might change, or how you handle different pressure situations, because perhaps now you're in charge of a different team or a different group. How you lead might change depending on your environment and your roles and responsibilities. So the good news is you can recycle those exercises. You can recycle those action plans, edit them, bring them up to present time. Think about, how am I showing up now? And then use your results to kind of support your decision making.
Yeah, that was good. One of the things on repeat, revisit, and reflect that I often think about when I start a class, I always talk about what my objective is. And I have one objective, is that I want them to be able to use this tool when they're at work. And I really want them to be able to use this tool when they're at home, right? And because we know when both of those systems are working together, we get a better, happier employee, right? Happy at home, happy at work, happy at work, happy at home. So I often talk about application when they're at home, say with maybe whoever they live with. Think about that style. Think about how could you deliver your information in a fashion that that person can receive. When we make it personal as well, your friends, these are the most important people, your family and your friends in your life. How can you make that valuable relationship even better. And the way you can do that is communicating in a fashion that gets your message in the hands of that person. So I always say that at the beginning, at work and at home.
Yeah, and what's great about DISC as a reinforcement tool is kind of just another way of saying what Wilma just said is, as you start to kind of practice just being more aware, making adjustments, it reinforces itself, and then you start to recognize the value. Hey, it's working, and it starts to extend beyond just your work environment, because and like Wilma said, now you're hopefully improving your interactions with the people that are most important to you.
Yes, I loved it. One of my daughters was in a sales class at university, and she texted me and she said, "Mom, I know they're talking about a D style. Quickly, how do I respond?" And of course I said, "You know how to respond." She goes, "Oh yeah, exactly," and typed it out. And so we have practice at home, and I will tell you that when they start to make the adjustments, you'll be happy, because you'll see they get more of what they want. Extended DISC resources. Now, Christina, this is the big thing she manages. She produces all of that. And there are so many great tools and worksheets and items like that, including reinforcement reports. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I love those.
Yeah, so one of the great things about using extended DISC is once your clients and your participants take the extended DISC questionnaire, you can generate as many types of reports based off of that. They don't have to retake an assessment. So let's just say, 2 months later, as a way of checking in, because maybe you don't have that ability to have that one-on-one with that person, you can generate what we call the reinforcement report. And there's a group of them, including, there's focused reinforcement reports like on decision-making, negotiation, your communication strategy, your strengths, etc. So you send that out. It's tailored based on their DISC profile results. It's a standalone workbook, and 2 months later, maybe you want to send another one out. So it keeps you connected to them. And it keeps them thinking about DISC. And what's great is those reports are very clear, focused, and it reminds them they're familiar with it already, having gone to your workshop. So we're running out of time.
One thing I just want to say, for another thing to send out that I think is terrific, is the videos. Remember, we have these 4 videos. What's a D, what's an I, what's an S, what's a C? Why not get that into their inbox? It's fabulous. It's on the website, or it's on the YouTube channel.
Exactly. And to kind of just to show you at a sample slide as part of our own DISC workshop presentations. So I call them your next steps. Don't forget to use your report. Give it time so you have time to reflect. Share your results with people who know you. Get that feedback, not just from yourself, but people who know you. Do that personal action plan in the back of the report, as Wilma mentioned. And then the communication strategy is just, again, another way to practice those 4 steps. Identifying the style of the other person, thinking about what types of adjustments that would be more effective. And remember, it's not like you write, you were creating these action plans and we have to go through step by step. Every day we're working on aspects of ourselves. And one of the things we talked about in another webinar, which is having the grace, giving ourselves grace, right? Having gratitude for the ability to interact with other people, and giving ourselves permission to not always do it right. And that's okay. So one of the things that I like to say is, today I did something, this is what I did well. Tomorrow, this is what I might try different, and hopefully that will help me. And again, tailoring it to your DISC styles. A lot of times we say, score yourself. Yeah, today I rocked it. I was a 10, in terms of adjustment. Tomorrow or yesterday, not as good, 7. Or phone a friend, we say, check in with your friend. How'd you do today? Someone else that was in your DISC session. Whatever it takes, be flexible in how we encourage our people to practice DISC. There's no one right way to practice DISC. Anything you would add just to kind of help
Yeah, I
people.
would just say another thing post, while you're in session, remember the accountability of others, keeping you present to what you have just taught them, is pair people up in an accountability opportunity where they check in with one another. How is the disc going? And have a requirement that they talk about maybe a specific thing that they're trying to achieve. And that's another way to just keep your sessions live. The only other thing I would say is always, when you're wondering what to do, move to action. That is the answer. Get your people in your classes moving to take some sort of step in this process.
And if there is one thing I want my learners to take away when they come to the DISC workshop, is that take a breath. That breath is an action to a pause. So reset yourself between your interactions so that you can go forward in your next interaction and do a great job, have it an effective one. Excellent. So hopefully that gave you a few tips. We are here for more tips if you guys are interested. We do have another webinar next Wednesday. It's part of the 4 steps. So it's step 3. Wilma and I will be doing it, and it's how to identify the main DISC styles of others. If you're interested and need HRCI or SHRM recertification units, you get 1 for attending this webinar. Thank you, Wilma. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Happy St. Paddy's Day. Thank you.